You're listening to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a business coach for online health coaches who want to attract their ideal clients, stop feeling defeated by their never-ending to-do list, balance a healthy lifestyle with their growing business, and stop overanalyzing what everybody thinks of them so that they can confidently own their message and online presence. On this podcast, we dive deep into health information you can share with your clients, business strategy tips, and more. Let's get to it. Super excited about today's episode, and I want to let you know that you can win a copy of my 2020 sales tracker, normally available only for clients. If you want to track your revenue, track your conversion rate, track your discovery calls in 2020. How do you win? Simply leave a written podcast review on the Health Coach Nation podcast on iTunes and take a screenshot of your review. Email it to info@haileyrowe.com with the subject line podcast review, and I will send you your sales tracker. Now, my email is info@Hailey, Hailey, Rowe, ROWE.com, and I cannot wait to reward you for leaving a podcast review with my 2020 sales tracker. All right, let's get into the episode. All right, everybody. We are live today with Courtney, and I'm so excited because Courtney and I have teamed up and partnered in 2020. I met her through actually one of my coaches, my consultants, and Courtney gets people booked on amazing podcasts, usually within the top 200 within their category. And when I saw the list of amazing podcasts your team sent me that you've been able to book people on and the groups of people that you have relationships with, I was drooling and I was like, my clients need this. My clients need this exposure and this visibility. And so we've bundled everything and we're working together now in 2020. And I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about what you really do when it comes to, podcasting in the podcast world.
Yeah, so I'm Courtney Blair. I have been booking people on podcasts for 5 years now. I started in the very beginning, the primitive years is the way I like to look at it, just working with my dad. My dad was my first client, and he just hired me and was paying me hourly to book him on podcasts. And it was kind of like I had no idea where to even begin. It was just, I was tracking stuff on spreadsheets, and there was, eventually it got to the point I did it for long enough that I built up a network, and I just kind of kept in contact with the ones that I had booked him on. And I kind of just figured out how to communicate with people in that sense. And one day, about 3 years ago now in February, it'll be 3 years, I just decided to start offering it to other people. You know what I mean? And I kind of changed up my pricing structure from my dad just paying me hourly as one of his employees to by the interview. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just kind of flipped up the pricing structure a little bit, and it just, I landed in some people's networks that the machine just started going and people started coming, and it's been a really wild ride. When I started 3 years ago reaching out to other people, I probably only had a network of 30 podcasters, maybe even less. Mm-hmm. And now we're about to hit 1,000 podcasters that we work with. We've completely perfected the machine, and it's just a system now that we have going, and it's all running really beautifully now. Most of the podcasts that we work with are top 200, like you said. But we work with podcasts large and small for different reasons. We represent probably 30 active clients right now that are going on podcasts regularly, but we've worked with around 200 over the last 3 years. It's just been a really wild ride. It's been a lot of fun. So a lot of the, we've had people that they want to go on smaller podcasts just because they kind of want to learn how to be interviewed on a podcast and how to dial things in. And so it's been a learning process for us, and we've had to completely change up our internal operations more than once, and, realize when things aren't working. And it's not this business isn't something that I've had a lot of people that were able to help with situations because it's just kind of like not very many people are doing this. You know what I mean? So we just kind of had to learn as we go. And I'm incredibly lucky to have an amazing partner, Samantha, who has completely I brought her in almost 3 years ago when I started doing this, and I was like, I can't handle all this. Like it all just took off. And I've known Samantha for about 10 years now. We met through work. So she just balances out everything that I was like not able to carry on my own. And she's been a key player in this whole thing. She's the reason why we've been able to iron out all the issues that I was having in the beginning. You know what I mean? So now it's just running.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. That's every entrepreneur's dream, is to just have it running.
Yes, seriously.
Yes. Okay. Seriously. Very, very cool. So when it comes to what does your dad do? I'm just curious that he was trying to get on podcasts.
He's in psychology, mental health, self-help, and personal development. He's got a bunch of NLP courses and life coach courses and just stuff of that nature. So he's been in psychology and psychotherapy for 40 plus years at this point. So it was really cool to represent him because I had a lot of podcasters that were like, what? That's your dad? You know what I mean? Nice. I was like, cool. I didn't even realize, you know what I mean, that he was like really actually pretty well known in his industry. So it's been so much fun. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Well, and part of what gets you known in your industry is being on panels, being on podcasts, being in articles, etc. And I think a lot of people, to me, we live in this world now where it's so accessible, and podcasters, you can send a few emails and you can, meet them at an event and follow up. I mean, it's just crazy. And I'm very grateful for the way that the internet works these days.
Me too.
Yeah, right?
Me too.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about let's say there's a coach watching this, and we actually have some people on the live broadcast with us, like Doka and Liz, two of my clients. And let's say they want to be able to be on podcasts. And why do you suggest that people try to be on podcasts? Let's just talk about the benefits first.
Well, a lot of my clients, there's just so many different reasons why people are wanting to go on the podcast, whether they have a book launch coming up, they just are writing a book, whether they have a course launch coming up, launches of all kinds, events. Client acquisition is a huge one, just because when you're aligned with the right audience, the right demographics, large or small, if you're in front of the people that are the people who need what you have to offer, it's such an organic sale and just connection that's made. It's like you don't have to go on and sell. You just have to go on and tell your story, tell what you do, what you're up to. And it's super organic because the placement is right and you're in front of the right people that need exactly what you're up to. And that's what my team and I specialize in is the demographics and aligning the demographics with the right person. The size of the podcast does matter to a certain extent, you know what I mean? But really the most important thing is alignment. And if you're aligned with the right people, not only are you going to get more clients, you're going to get SEO from that podcast. Your website is going to be shared all over the place. If you line things up properly with the podcaster, which our podcasters are used to working with us and they know what the gist is basically, but whatever links you want to share, whatever promotions you have going on that you want to offer those audiences, if you make sure that the podcaster is sharing that with their entire network of people and their email lists and their social media platform, like you hammer out like a good marketing strategy. And then you go and you get interviewed on a bunch of different podcasts. Some have 10,000 people that pay attention to it. Some have 20, some have 5. You know what I mean? Like imagine how many people are going to be picking up on what you're saying and what you're putting down just because you're aligned with the right audience. So, totally. And that's why we like to call it a podcast tour, because we want you to do a bunch of them. We don't want you to just go and do one and see what happens, because that's not really how it works. You know what I mean? It's a long-term investment. It's, it pays off over time, especially, you know what I mean? I get people that hit me up over podcasts that I did 2 years ago when I first started off, you know what I mean? And it's like, totally, so they work forever. It's not like there's a launch date, but it's always going. And it's a machine that is, always working for you. So.
Yes, there's so many things I want to
elaborate on that when you said some of those things. So first of all, with the SEO, I completely agree with you because I was looking back at 2019. I have a podcast. I'll be honest, the first year and a half ish, I was super inconsistent and I wasn't putting a lot into them. I'm trying to do way more interviews this year. I'm loving the interviews. Anyways, bottom line is it was sitting there and it did really help my SEO though, because every week I was putting out my show notes and these days, 2 years later, now I have leads coming in through SEO, through finding my website, because I'm on the first page for a business coach for health coaches. And I don't think that would have happened if I wasn't using that phrase, doing my, show notes every week. So SEO truly, my podcast, and not even being on others' podcasts, but having my own was really helpful. And also with the audience thing that you're saying about how you can just get put in the right audience. So when people find me through SEO, it's because they're searching for exactly what I offer. And I feel like being on a podcast, it's the same thing, because whatever topic you guys pick for the headline, that can be searchable. Somebody's searching for that exact thing. They're searching for what you do. And so it's way faster track than, doing a post on social media. Somebody might not be looking for whatever. It's just a really nice way to get in front of the right people. And the third thing I want to say is when you're saying it's a long-term strategy. So in my program, I teach there's two different types of marketing strategies: fast and active, and passive and long-term. And podcasts, because they go out and they stay there for years, just like you said, and you had somebody reach out to you 2 years later, it is a long-term strategy, and it's great because you do it once and it sits there and it just grows in SEO or shares and whatever. And so that's the coolest. That's what excites me these days. Not necessarily the grunt work of the fast, active, cheap model of booking clients, which has been my thing as I've been growing my business, because as you know, we've got to pick what resources we're going to put in. But these days, my goal really is to focus more on the long-term, just more passive ways. Now, nothing's in my mind. I have a very strong opinion about the word passive. I hate it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, but you get my point. It's long-term strategy that is very high quality, classy, and podcast.
Yes, I love it. I love that.
Good stuff. Okay, so tell me about when you said that you run the smooth oiled machine. What was that process like? How did you become more systematic in your business? Because I'm sure a lot of coaches feel like, I'm the only person who can do this. I can't outsource. I can't afford it. All the things.
Honestly, my biggest role in just ironing everything out was taking a step back and giving my partner full like freedom to do whatever she needed to do to fix things. You know what I mean? So really, I feel like just allowing myself to share the load is what saved the business. Seriously, I would not be here without Samantha, so, as the owner, you know what I mean? It's not easy to do that, like you spend so much time, this is your baby and it's really scary. And, when someone who's working with you goes, okay, so this software has to go, this has to go, this whole way that we're doing this has to go, and like, it's going to take a little bit for this whole overhaul to happen. And it was a scary moment for me, and like giving up ways that I was kind of not necessarily attached to, because I knew that we were having these issues that needed to be handled, but just trusting that what was going to happen was the right way to go. And that's kind of, I was like, okay, here we go, let's do it, and I just kind of like allowed it all to happen. And it was the best thing that ever happened. I mean, she got rid of software that I was paying for. I was paying almost $300 a month for that software. Plus she saved me a ridiculous amount of time and man hours per month. that I was paying her and other people to do. And now it's just completely running smoothly. And I'm just amazed that it all happened. And, I feel like, there's never been a better time to work with us, just because now, like, we don't have any of the issues that we were having before. So I'll explain to you a little bit more about like what the overhaul was. Mm-hmm. So the way that we were doing things was I had this emailing software that I was using to communicate with our network, because we have almost 1,000 podcasters, that we had to be really systematic about how we communicated with everybody. Mm-hmm. And so this software was really expensive, and
what was it? Can you tell us?
We were using Ninja Outreach.
Okay.
I don't recommend it. Once upon a time, when I was working for my dad, I would have highly recommended it, but everything changed, and it's not good software anymore. Okay. And so she found a way to completely get rid of it, which was absolutely amazing. We had been just like racking our brains about how to get rid of it for so long, because we were just so incorporated in it. And we would take our clients' information, and we would go and we would just pitch them to podcasters that were relevant to them, based off of our own knowledge of the situation, and then present the interviews that came back confirmed to our clients. And then they could go through and, move forward with the ones that they wanted to do. So in the beginning, it was like, yeah, this makes sense, and then after a while, we just realized we were spinning our tires in the mud with outreach, and we wanted to give our clients full ability to go through and pick their interviews before we even begin outreach. You know what I mean? Right. And so by getting rid of all the old systems, she flip-flopped everything that we were doing and incorporated our network into Trello, which is software that we use. And seriously, what she did is just like magnificent. I'm like, I can't believe this is amazing, because neither of us have any history in what we're doing. Like, we're literally just learning this as we go. And it's been just beautiful to watch it all come together so beautifully. And so by her just making that switch, and it sounds like almost like a small switch, but it's massive. I mean, our clients are able to go through and pick out exactly which interviews they want to move forward with. And we can take care of it really quickly and easily. And, she's just saved me so much time and money. I just could talk about her all day.
Nice. And where did you find her? How did you guys know each other again?
I actually met her about 10 years ago, just through work. She was hired on where I was working, and we worked together for about 5 years. Okay. And we just became really, really good friends. And from there, we had babies at the same time. And so we were both kind of like, both of our kids are 4 and 5, and they're like best friends. And so we both were like, we need to work, and we're stuck at home, So nice. We just kind of like put the whomp on this thing, and really, just to see how far we could go. And it's been awesome. It's been so cool. I mean, the people that we've been able to connect with through this whole thing just blows my mind. Just like the biggest people in their industries are like responding to our emails and talking to us. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's incredible.
That's incredible. Awesome. That's so cool. And I will say the same thing. I brought on an online business manager this year, and I have a virtual assistant, and they really, a lot of times they are my boss.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, give me a to-do list.
I woke up on Monday morning, and my online business manager was like, no, we're changing the plan. We're doing this giveaway this week, and here's how it's going to work. And I need to talk to you on the phone. As soon as I rolled out of bed, I'm like, okay, sure. She already was going for it. And that's what I love. Like, I love people I like to surround myself with people who are very strong and who are resourceful and will go for it and will tell you what you need to hear. So, not to say that we have meetings and strategy and behind everything we do, but it's fun when you start to take that risk and outsource or do that, and you start to see, whoa, I would have been wasting so much time on this or whatever.
Yeah.
But the other thing about this whole podcast thing is when you're saying that there's a few things. First of all, it's awesome that you give your clients the power to be involved and say, here's what I want, here's what I don't want, here's my ideal client, because that's so it's not just about getting them on any type of podcast. And I think what happens when people try to outsource it, try to do it themselves, is they don't know the industry. They haven't looked behind the numbers and the downloads and who listens, and that, they don't have any criteria like, okay, are they going to share it with their audience? How does this work? Like what's my strategy behind going on this podcast? So that's where I feel like your team comes in. And when I was reading through your testimonials and all the things that you do, it sounds like you really know this podcast world. And so what's crazy to me, I was listening to a podcast recently that was sharing like stats about podcasts. And there was something about how it's a very small percentage of, like, people think, oh, podcasting has grown so much, everybody has a podcast now, it's too late for me to get in. But really it's not, because the people who are consistent with their podcasts, the numbers, it's like I can't remember the percentage. It's like only a very small percent consistently releases an episode, and only a very small percent has reviews, and only, like, it was very interesting to me to see like, you could do this if you really commit. And one of the things, so I'm sorry, I'm word vomiting all over.
No. Continue.
But tell me a little bit about, like, what do you know about the podcast world, and that maybe you would want to share why people kind of need to outsource this rather than do it themselves?
I definitely think reasons why people would want to outsource this to a company like mine is because, first and foremost, we've been working with top 200 podcasts for a while. We have a relationship with them. We have it streamlined. We just had an application bump to the top of Entrepreneur on Fire when he was booked out for like 6 months, just because it was aligned properly and it was all done right. And we have a great relationship with them. And he's one of the biggest podcasts in the world, so we have pull and that's a good reason, I remember how it was in the beginning when I was working for my dad, and it was like, I didn't know anybody. And it was one of those things that it ends up being a lot of work. And when you want to do a lot of podcasts and you really want to vamp up what you're doing and grow your audience and bring, traffic and visibility to what you have going on, it has to be a steady thing. And it turns into a full-time job if you don't have the systematization and the optimized way of doing everything, so, and that's not something that comes with being taught. It's just experience, you know what I mean? And something that we've picked up, so it's not impossible to book yourself on your own podcast, but it's something, it's definitely something brand new that people are still trying to figure out, and something that we've already figured out, so we've already got it all completely dialed, so our podcast network loves us just because of how easy we make it for everything. We handle booking, we fill out the applications as much as we possibly can. We facilitate any communication that needs to happen with the podcaster. Our clients can also just throw their hands in the situation and say, you guys handle it. You book the podcast. I don't want to do it, and we can do that as well. So, it's never going to be completely done for you, because there's going to be, a question we have here or there, and there's going to be a podcaster that wants to talk to this person, so it's never completely done for you, but we have it down, you know what I mean? And we have it down quickly, and we have the applications already on hand for the podcasters that require an application. We have the calendar booking links already on hand once they get approved. We know their teams, we know their assistants, we know how it all works. And so it's like, it's one of those things that, and then I'm always here for my clients to help them prepare if they need it, to help them pick out their interviews if they want help, and just to bounce ideas off of me. If they want to, if they want help deciding on a topic to speak to this audience about, I'm always there to hold their hand. You know what I mean? So, and that's kind of what they're paying for, is for it to be for most of the legwork to be taken care of, and,
Right.
just, help push into the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I think part of it, you guys can do your job, you can get them booked on the podcast, et cetera. But part of it too, as a coach, is knowing your story, knowing your niche, knowing what you even offer. Have you tested it?
Exactly.
Is it what people want? do you have a lead magnet you can mention on the show that
yes,
it's a very smart funnel? Like, have you thought about this? And have you made something special maybe for this audience in particular?
Exactly.
And so that is why Courtney and I were like, well, this makes sense. Like, you do the bookings, tell them what to, whatever they need to know. And I help you with that preparation and that foundational work that you need to have done to make the most out of these opportunities. Because I'm sure you could book someone on a podcast, but if they're shy and shaky and don't know what they're offering and not clear on their ideal client before they come
traffic
to you,
doesn't flow off of the interview,
Right.
It's really important, because you can lead someone to the perfect opportunity, but if they don't have things dialed in on the back end, that's incredibly important. And that's something that I'm recently realizing, that I'm semi-responsible for making sure that they're getting a return on this investment, or they're not going to continue to work with me. You know what I mean? Right. And so that's, again, I agree. This is why this is the perfect partnership, because I need to care about that. That's something that needs to be addressed with my clients. And I'm excited that we're doing this. This is great.
Yeah. And for our community, if you guys, in the description, I put a link to book a call with me if you'd like to hear more about this and more about Courtney and see her reviews and stuff. But basically, we waive your startup fee when you come from the Health Coach Nation community. So that's super exciting.
Yes.
But continuing with our interview, there were so many things I was jotting down when you were talking. When you said that it all comes down to outreach and building relationships. How does one go? Because here, if there's one thing I've discovered this year, it's like it all comes down to outreach and relationships and whatever, right? As much as there's other things, that's just, at the end of the day, that's the fastest way to grow your business.
Exactly.
And you can do it yourself, but you can outsource it and get so much more done and so much more outreach. And that's part of what you do. And that's part of what, I just met this girl who gets people speaking gigs. Like, there's so many people doing that for you, so you can save some time and work on your craft. But the question is, so how do you go about building those relationships when it is new? What did you do to start building those relationships?
To be completely honest, I feel like I just sent a bunch of emails and I just kept emailing and I just kept talking to them. And, there was a lot of legwork and hours put in of me just replying to people and carrying conversations. What I do is pretty unique, and most people haven't heard of anybody that does what I do. And so that's been it's just been an easy way for me to network, because, it's unique, you know what I mean? And so, but really, ultimately, I think it was just a matter of transparency and being myself. And, you know what I mean? If I didn't have, an answer to a question, which I didn't a lot of the time in the beginning, I had no idea how to answer questions on sales calls because I had never sold anything like this before. So I was just figuring it out. And I think what people appreciated the most was transparency. And I would say, I have only been doing this for a couple of years, and this is still pretty brand new to me. So, I'll be honest with you the whole way, and just being really, really transparent with how everything was working. You know what I mean? So I wasn't sure how podcasters were going to accept me in the beginning, because I'm like charging people to book them on their podcast. It felt weird to me in the beginning, So I was like, the only way through this is just to be transparent with these people. And, it ended up working. It just ended up working. And so, it was just a lot of relationship building and honesty and, you know what I mean? Just, wanting to keep in contact with them. Especially with my clients and the podcasters that we line them up with, they're very relevant to each other in their industries. You know what I mean? If you're getting accepted onto a podcast, what you have to say is super relevant to what they have to offer their audience, and they wouldn't accept you onto their show otherwise. And so that relationship right there is incredibly important. And I feel like by my team and I aligning people with the right podcast has just made my network even more strong, because they look at us and they're like, okay, like, these people know what they're doing. You know what I mean? And I had just had a podcaster tell me the other day that the podcasting industry is the new way to network with people who are big and relevant in your industry. You know what I mean? And if you can pitch yourself properly and place yourself properly with these people, you don't have to have a huge, massive following to land on a big interview. It's just a matter of making sure that you've got your message dialed in, that you're presenting it properly. So I have this thing keeps buzzing me right now. That your message is completely dialed in. The way that we present the information, my team and I present the information is really important. It's, you know what I mean? Making sure that all the information is really easy to access. All the questions that they would ask about this person are already answered, and it's easy to get to, and that's what these podcasters are looking for is professional. You know what I mean? Like making sure that this is done properly.
Yeah.
So,
a few themes I caught in there is, first of all, the fact that you were like, I'm going to figure this out. I don't really know fully right now, but I have to start this business and I have to start making sales, and I know I'll figure it out. So part of that, you have to take risks. You have to be open to taking messy action. You have to be open to being that transparent person who can say, I'm new to this, but I know like I will make it work for you. And if that means we change,
it's definitely going to work. Yeah.
If we work differently or whatever, like just make it work. Right. So I love that. And the second thing you said is you reach out to people. Hello. Like you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. And personally, I feel like I have a, I posted in my Facebook group recently, what TEDx talk topic would you guys do? And I thought about mine, and I was thinking like, and my mom actually told me this because she knows me very well. And she was like, you probably do, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take, because throughout my life, like I've always just been like, I'm going to ask. And if they say no, whatever. Right. And so I made up my own internship for the Doctors TV show in California during college. Like they didn't even have an internship program, but I was like, I would like to intern here. Here's what it would look like.
I love that.
I just asked, I don't know if this is actually happening yet, but I'll still say it. Jordan Harbinger, who I have a little fandom.
I'm connected with them.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, oh, he's a big deal. He won't answer me, but I like sent him a message on LinkedIn.
Yes, there you go.
I didn't check my LinkedIn till like last week, and he answered me, and I was like, oh my God, wow.
See, that's the best feeling ever. Like that's how I felt this whole time. Like this is so cool. Like it's just a matter of like putting yourself out there and doing it in a way that is like premeditated and like professional. You know what I mean? And it works. It's amazing. It works.
Yeah. You do want to do it right if you're going to do it. Meaning you don't just want to you don't want to overthink it though, to the point where it's 3 years later and you still haven't reached out to that person. But I think a lot of people are really, really afraid of rejection, and afraid that, something bad, terrible will happen. And that at the end of the day, everything's figure outable. So as Marie says, right? So Rocco said she's scared thinking about this. So what do you say to people who get really, really nervous when they're doing interviews?
Oh man. Well, I'm one of those people. I'm definitely one of those people. I usually do well when I'm being interviewed, but up until the moment of actually like going and recording, I get social anxiety. I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like it's hard for me to like be interviewed, and I get that. You know what I mean? Like that's the irony of this whole thing. Is I'm like, no, I get it. Like it's not the easiest thing to do, and doing, stuff like this for your company and talking about yourself, and it doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. And I fully get that, you know what I mean? And it's just one of those things that you learn how to present things in a way that you feel comfortable with. You learn what you feel comfortable talking about and what you don't feel comfortable talking about. A lot of podcasts get pretty personal, and they bring up stuff about your childhood, and you know what I mean? Like, so I say when it comes to being interviewed individually on podcasts, I like to have a pre-interview before, so that I can make sure that there's good like banter with that person, and that I know what to expect with the interview, and if there's like a list of questions, I want to see them, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So, and that is usually it helps. It really helps, so, and that's one of the things my team's really good at, is making sure that all that stuff is like ready to go, just because we've worked with these people for so long, you know what I mean? So preparation, I would say, is number one when it comes to just kind of beating the nerves, just understanding what you're talking about, knowing what information you're going to present, and then just going for it. You know what I mean? And if you're nervous, just bring attention to it. I've never been interviewed before. I'm a little nervous. My voice might get shaky at some point. You know what I mean? Like bring people's attention to it. People like podcasts because of how authentic they are. And, like it's okay. We're all people. So it's just a matter of learning how to confront those nerves in a way that is productive.
Totally. I think the more prepared you can be in practice, the less nervous you'll be. And many people are like, but then it's not authentic because you're, and I'm like, no, like if you're a professional, you usually prepare before something, right?
Yes, of course.
And by the way, everyone, Courtney, I did not prepare you at all for this interview.
No, you actually did a really good, you did a great job preparing me. I read through all this stuff you sent me and I was like, we're good. This is good. Yeah, no, you did a great job. You did a great job.
I can't even remember what I said. So great.
Well, you laid it out really, really easily for me. Yeah, it was great. It was definitely great. I didn't even feel the need to get you on a call because we talked so much just through email, and you gave me enough information. I was like, this is totally going to work. So
cool. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, but anyways, regarding the prepared thing, and I'm going to go on this authentic thing. So people, your authenticity, being authentic doesn't mean being unprepared. Being authentic means being yourself, sharing your message, sharing your story, being transparent, right? Just like what you said, my first podcast, I'm a little nervous, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean you have to show up without makeup and you didn't practice and you.
Yes, exactly. You have no idea what to. Yeah.
Anyways,
agreed.
Okay, good. I like where this is going. So we have to be consistent with the reach outs too, because I'm sure the first time you send a pitch or something, people don't respond or, right?
Oh yeah. Yes. My team has a whole follow-up schedule. They are persistent with these people. If they don't get a response, they send another one, you know what I mean? And they just keep it going. And if you follow up with clients and stuff, you kind of realize it's pretty much the same way. It's follow-up, and that's one of the things that my team is incredible with. Like we have podcasters that write, they're like, wow, like your follow-up is impressive. Like, your persistency is what made me reply to you today. And they become a rock solid part of our network. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely you have to be persistent, and a lot of times you're not going to get a response right away. And you have to have a way to track all of these people and make sure that you're consistent with following up with all of them. It's something that we've spent a long time dialing in internally because it's not easy. It's one of those things. It's a job. It's a full-time job. Like we've had clients that had to hire assistants and that was just to communicate with us to get things going because they wanted to do so many interviews at once. And we need someone who is as gung-ho for it as we are if they're going to work with us. Like there is going to be stuff that we need, so yeah, it's a job.
Right. Totally. And you have to that comes back to making it as easy as possible for the other party. And I love that you said that earlier in the interview, because so often I hear from people, or I'll get a message or something, and it'll be like, it's like hard for me to understand or answer or whatever. And then there's people who consistently follow up, send me an easy link, say that they'll give me a graphic or something, and they send it and I'm like, great, let's get this
perfect. Yes.
Right. So and so I personally in my program I'm sure yours is way better because you do this every day, but I have a little pitch template that's okay, go over the topics you could cover, say what's in it for them, aka the size of your audience. If you don't have a big audience, say something else. That's why should they want to interview you for your podcast? Nobody knows about you. Pretend even if they do, act like nobody knows about you. So you have to be able to give them that picture and all the different things. So anyways, I got off track again.
No, you hit the nail on the head with that, like 100%. It's so important. It's so important.
It is. And the other thing is, do they always give you, I'm sure every podcast is different, but do they usually give you a script of questions? Doka asked in the comments, do they prepare you? Do they give you stuff in advance? Do they have rules?
Yeah. A large percent of them. There's a percentage that they're like, it's really conversational. I'm going to ask you about where you got into what you're doing and what you're doing and what your future is. You know what I mean? And it's really like, they just want to see how the conversation's going to go. Those specifically, I like to have a pre-interview with, just because it's like, okay, like, let's see if we can even make this conversation last an hour. You know what I mean? Because it's not very structured. But like I said, that's a pretty small percentage. And usually those hosts are really great, and they are very conversational, and they're completely comfortable just going with questions right off the bat. So, and that's where you have to know what you're talking about with people like that. But most of them, they have like, once you book onto their calendar, they have a whole, like, they send you like the way that it normally works, like the, I can't think of the word right now, but just kind of how it all goes. Yes. Yeah. How it all goes from start to finish. Any questions they are definitely going to ask. A lot of times they'll ask you for your professional bio, which we always send over when we pitch anyways, but they want headshots, you know what I mean? And every podcast is different for sure. And some of them, they want to get it really into like what your past is like and what made you get into what you're doing. And, so yeah, but it's the communication's always there. I hate when my clients go into an interview blind. It's something that I have like been doing everything I can to prevent. I want to provide everything I possibly can, because I don't like going into stuff blind. You know what I mean? So that's where communication with my client and the team is the most important, and the podcaster, obviously. So
good. Yeah. So you need a few things in order to go. If you're going to commit to podcasting, you're committing to it. It's a long-term game. Maybe want to do a little podcast tour. You want to make sure you have the time to be on the interviews. You don't need the time to do the reach outs, because that's what Courtney does, but you need the time. You need your message clarity and your offer and all that stuff squared away. You probably need a good funnel or something to collect
like a squeeze page or something, a way that directs traffic where it needs to go. And not everybody's going to want to sign up with you right away, so you have to be able to say, find me here, you know what I mean, ask me questions here. And if you don't have any of that dialed in, it's hard. It can be kind of hard to figure out how you want it to go and what offers you want to offer people. And it's definitely one of those things. I would like to have a professional, if I'm completely starting at the bottom, like it's good to have people that know what they're talking about with this thing. Cause the podcasting industry has been around for a while, but being used as a business tool the way it is now is brand new, so it's one of those things.
Yeah. And you need to be clear on your social media links if you had to blurt them out, or so often I'll even ask, people, what is it you do? And there's no succinct elevator pitch yet either.
Yeah, they don't even know really how to describe what they do.
They can't remember it. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You should be saying this every day.
Seriously, yeah. Totally agree.
Which, I'm always working on my messaging too. It always changes a little bit, but you gotta at least, like, that's important. And so that's good to know as far as like what maybe they need beforehand or to have as they're going through this process. Is there anything else you would say? Actually, different question. I've squirrel brain today. What's the coolest moment in this journey that you've had?
Really, the coolest moments for me are when people like you come along that they want to offer what we're doing to their clients. Like, I feel like it's just a really special relationship because I'm being trusted with like their babies, you know what I mean? And like their network and the people they work really, really hard to bring in and to work with themselves. And so I've been really lucky to have a lot of people that are like, this person needs to be interviewed, this person, like, and people just connecting me. It's the only way that I haven't really done a lot of the advertising. Like I've run an ad a couple of times when I thought I could build ads, and I didn't get a return on it at all. And how, the way that we've been growing is just organically through using our tools ourselves and me being interviewed on podcasts myself and referrals and word of mouth. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah, these are my babies. This is my community, and I love them. And I read through. I mean, I really did look through your stuff, and whenever I get a referral from Paul, I know he's my guy when it comes to
he's
that.
One of the people that has been so rock solid. He's like, he's connected me with like 15 people in the last couple of months, you included. I'm so glad to know him.
Yep. So anyways, but yeah, I did read through everything and I was like, dang, we are. And I love, even just in this interview, the themes that have come up, the follow-up, the persistence, the putting yourself out there, the, just, I get you. I like it.
Thank you. Same.
So now the other question I have for you is, maybe when there was a time where your business was really slow, things weren't going so well, you're feeling discouraged, just because there's going to be a lot of people listening right now who are like, this sounds like a dream, but also I can't afford it, or I am stuck, or whatever. What would you say to those people's encouragement, or what you do when you're down?
Well, earlier this year, not this year, last year, 2019, like January through probably May of last year was the slowest months I've ever experienced with what we're doing. It was like so scary. I felt like I was watching it die. It was like that. And that's what forced me and Samantha to really evaluate what we were doing and where we were having, disconnects. And that's what caused us to do our complete overhaul of our internal operations. And it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to us. And we're doing great now, and we're back on track, and our network is growing steadily. And, I would just say, if you're in that dark time of you think that your baby is dying, and just don't give up. Try and talk to people that you trust, whose opinions you trust. Bounce ideas off of people. See where you could potentially be shooting yourself in the foot, which I was definitely doing. Like I was spending so much money just spinning my tires in the mud. Like I've said, we just weren't getting anywhere. And it took a fresh perspective. It took talking to people that I consider mentors and being honest and saying, look, something's not working. You know what I mean? And it's a really tough moment to look in the mirror and say, okay, something's got to change, but that change could save the whole thing, so just don't give up, just continue to press onward. And that's all I've got for it. It's not an easy place to be in. It's rough. I understand. It was like, I felt I was depressed, I'm like, everything I've been working for is falling apart. And, it was such a dark time period, but I really feel like we were just being planted, and we just had to kind of grow and figure out our way out of the dirt,
Yep. No, I really like that you shared that, because the truth is, even though you're running something that's awesome and done for you services, and you'd think it'd be consistent, and even in the coaching world, you're just it's not a linear, I don't think everybody thinks this, but I do think that they think once I get into once I hit 10K months forever, I'm done, I could check out, or whatever.
Right.
But it's just, you have to keep doing it, and you have to, a lot of times those dark times, like you said, come with the biggest lessons. You're like, whoa, where this isn't set up for, we need to change some foundational things. This isn't set up for success. So just being somebody who's in it for the long game is so important. And so many people today, they see these people just growing their online business and getting on the podcast and doing all the things, and they're like, oh, it's so easy for them, or whatever. But you don't see this side here. And I looked back too. I don't know when I shared this. I think I shared it in November. I looked back at different, 1 year November, this year November, and it was like, oh my God, whoa, how did and what happened in between that time? And it was a really good lesson for me to know what I was doing really wrong.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, I think that's a good place, not to leave it on a dark note. Look at Courtney now. She's blossomed, and learned to change her system. And there will always be new problems and new growth and new systems to be made, and et cetera. It never stops.
Absolutely.
The lifelong journey, y'all. You can't just check out and be passive. which you can have passive courses and things, but I don't like when people just say, well, I can be like this passive business owner. Why would you want to?
Yeah.
You like your business. I don't know.
Yeah, passive is such a funny word. I don't know. It's really hard for me to imagine anything being 100% passive. Like,
right.
It's funny.
Right. I know. Well, even if you like invest your money in a index fund or something, you still have to go like check on it every once in a while.
Yeah, it's going to take something from you. Yeah, no matter what. You have to give it some sort of attention. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, okay, so Courtney, everybody who is watching this podcast and you will want to check out the show notes, you can go to haileyrowe.com/podcast hyphen. I have to come up with the URL right now. Podcast hyphen interviews. That's what it's going to be. Podcast hyphen interviews. And when this show goes live, I will have a Calendly link there. And I have the Calendly link here in the Facebook Live description, where you can book a call and ask me any questions or ask Courtney any questions and learn more about what we are doing to save you money on working with both of us, as well as save you money if you do decide to do the podcast thing and not have to pay a startup fee.
Yes.
All right. Woohoo! Is there anything else you want to say, Courtney?
I'm stoked that we did this. This has been great. Thank you so much for inviting me on. You structured it all so well. Like I said, great job with all of it. So I'm really excited to share this with my network. And this is great. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Be sure to get your free gift over at haileyrowe.com by joining my email list. And remember, you can always connect with me and other health coaches in the Health Coach Nation free Facebook group, where I post trainings and videos on how to take your health coaching business to the next level. Can't wait to connect with you. Have an awesome day.